Morning. Welcome to another edition of the Sunday morning rant with me, yours truly. So, those of you who follow me, who really give a crap, will realise I haven't done this for a few weeks. So, apologies for that. There have been some very good reasons. Number one, I managed to, a few weeks back, break a rib. Which has meant it's been extremely difficult to actually sit still in this sort of position to actually do this sort of thing, and I mean extremely painful. I've never broken a rib before, and oh Jesus Christ, it's painful. It doesn't help that I'm carrying a few too many pounds on my frame at the moment, so it looks like I'm on a diet to try and get some of the pounds off my frame, because that has obviously compounded the problem, because the fat is pressing on the rib. Anyway, enough of me being a fat bastard. So that was one reason. I have also been embroiled in legal things relating to my split with my ex, which is not particularly pleasant, but just consumes an extraordinary amount of time. Anybody who's probably been through a divorce or a separation knows exactly what I'm talking about. It's not the simplest thing to just rock up, say goodbye and move on. There's all kinds of things that have to be decided legally. So anyway, that's my woes done. And the last reason I haven't done anything really is because I think if I'm looking at the monitor, it looks like I've got a sort of shard of light coming out of my head. But I've had to change the lighting in the studio. Purely because the lighting that was in here when I moved into this space was all the energy saving light bulbs, which are okay when you're in the here playing and doing stuff, but for video making it really was not presenting the video in a particularly good way. It all came a bit pixelated, so I had to change that, hence the reason why it now looks like I've got a shiny light coming out of my head. That said, so couple of things I want to start with. So I've seen this video a couple of times on YouTube, and I don't know who the guy is because it just comes up in like a rolling feed, and I've clicked on it and I've seen the guy talking. The guy has a home studio. Quite a lot bigger than mine, I might add, a lot more equipment in it, with a full-fledged desk in there, which he's got most of his equipment, it looks like, plugged directly into the desk. And he made the video about the Aria equipment and the fact that it was really noisy. So I decided to do a little test of my own, and I'm going to do it while I'm on camera so you can actually hear. So my Aria equipment is through my MX1. My MX1 has the master up full, and all the channels for the Aria equipment are switched on up full. Okay, they're obviously not doing anything at the moment. And then I'm going to turn up the mixer, and yes, there is a noise, and you can hear it, and it's like a high-pitched hum. Okay, but if I'm brutally honest, it's no more of a hum than I get off my D50 or on my M1. I'm not sure whether you can actually hear this on the video, but there is a hum. I'm going to turn that down, like so. So I can either prove or disprove what this guy was saying. I mean, he could also have his stuff amped up a hell of a lot more than mine is. But there is a little bit of a background noise on some of the Aria stuff. Now, there's a couple of things that could be different between my rig and his rig. I have all my Aria gear now USB to the MX1, and I have everything coming from the MX1 into the mixer. So there is no individual sound out of the System-8, the TB303, TB3, the TR8. Okay, so it all goes into the MX1, as does my Jupiter. Okay, so the Jupiter also plays through the MX1. And that's the reason why it's rather loud. So that could be causing a problem. There could be a number of other problems going on here. Those of you who've seen the video before will know that I rant about studio cabling and buying the best that you can. I stand by that statement. I buy all my cables from a company called Studio Spares, which are on the web. www.studiospares.com, I think is the is the address. They make very good. I mean, I only have their own brand, by the way, so this is not me buying sort of like, you know, some sort of specialist brand. I buy their own brand. I find they're sturdy. The mouldy plugs are solid, and I've had very little problems with cables I bought from them. And obviously, in a studio like this, I mean, I have very little repatching going on apart from when I do stupid things like move the studio. So there's that, of course, going on in the background. And the last thing is I tend to buy my legacy tech. I tend to buy stuff that's been in a studio or been home used rather than being gigged a lot, so you know that the amount of times that cable has been plumbed in and pushed out of the individual sockets on the back of the piece of equipment is pretty low. Okay, so you've got that. The other thing is just make sure, obviously, you ram the cables home. I mean, don't force them, but make sure they're properly seated and supported, which is the thing that a lot of people never really think about when they're putting cables in the back of equipment, because actually, you know, a cable coming out of one of the back of these actually puts a fair amount of weight on the back of a socket. And if you think about how they mould the socket, so let's take the D50 for argument's sake. So the socket comes out of the D50 like so. It will be attached to the board here, and you plug a cable in like that, and then have that drop to the floor. So what the cable is trying to do is the cable is trying to do that, okay, and the socket is on the board like that, so the socket is trying to come away from the board. Alright, and when that happens quite a lot, you end up with the actual socket creating a dry joint, and that can cause problems. So it really is a word to the wise. I mean, if you look at mine, you notice the cables actually go up and over the next tier in the stand, and on the DX7 what they actually do is they actually wrap around. There's a piece underneath here that actually supports the cable itself, so that it's not putting weight on the, so it goes around the mounting bar, just so the cable's not putting weight on the socket, okay, because that's how you can damage the sockets. Anyway, that's Noisey Aria. Moving on from that, what I have seen in the last couple of weeks, and I can neither confirm or deny, but apparently there is a new piece of equipment coming out on the 9th of September, I believe is the D-Day. Now, so it's rumoured, and I say rumoured because I do not know, some of the photographs I have seen that seem to be floating around the internet are that the new piece of equipment is going to be a new piece of Aria equipment, and it's going to be called the System-8. And the photograph I've seen that's been going around is of a 61-note keyboard, which would seem to sort of be around a sort of the M1 D50 type size. The question is, of course, if it is a System-8, what keyboards are Roland going to target with it? So it looks to me like it would be sort of targeted at a Juno or early Jupiter, maybe a D50. I don't know, the D series range, but it looks like that. Now, if that really is truly what's coming out, then that might definitely make it onto my wish list for later in the year. I'm not quite sure where I'm going to put it, but it would make it onto my wish list. Because I do like the whole concept of the Aria stuff. I love the fact that the TR8 you can load in different kits. So I still have to do the last upgrade for the TR8, which I will get around to doing so shortly. but I love the fact you can have individual kits on there. I love the fact that you can have different synthesizers on the System-1. Yes, the whole process of moving sounds backwards and forwards is a bit of a pain in the arse, but you know, once you understand how it works, it works. So that would be really interesting to see what they come out with on that particular platform. Now, the only downside to what some of the stuff that Roland has done recently, especially I'm referring now to the boutique series, because I would have bought the JP module from the boutique series if it weren't for a couple of things. Number one, you power it from batteries. Come on, batteries. You know, I don't understand. I've never fully understood the logic of that. Right? Why would you power a piece of studio kit? And let's face it, that's what people were buying it for. They were buying it for the sounds to use in their studio environments or in live environments. You know, and you know, having batteries there, all that happens is the power in the batteries fail. You lose your synth. So yeah, batteries. Come on, guys. You know, whoever came up with that should have been shot. I suppose at the end of the day, what it did mean is you didn't have to put any sort of power supply or power circuitry into the piece of equipment itself. But how much did that really save you? Especially when you're paying £400-ish for that piece of kit. The second point that I was really sort of didn't get on with the whole sort of boutique series, is if you weren't going to power the thing by batteries, and you did have the Aria equipment, the USB on the Aria MX1, only one of those sockets has the necessary 5 volts on it to actually power a piece of equipment. So you can only power one of the boutique pieces of equipment at any point in time. Failing that, you'd have to go and plug that directly into a computer, and I dare say that if you were plugging it directly into a computer, you probably would need to have a powered hub in there. Okay, I mean, I do actually use a powered hub anyway, because I tend to find that it ensures that there's a constant 5 volts on the USB sockets for items that need it. But on the flip side of that, every piece of equipment I have in here, it has its own independent power supply anyway. So, by the by. So what I'd like to see is, if you're going to carry on down sort of producing boutique-y type equipment, and I would have loved to have bought one. I just couldn't justify the fact that it was battery powered, and I couldn't really put it into the rig. But if you're going to carry on doing that, you know, please put a power supply on it, and maybe what we really want is an upgraded version of the MX1, maybe the MX2, with more USB sockets, or the ability to hub to daisy chain on USB, which is something you can't do on the MX1 at the moment. So that's that. Moving on, while I was incapacitated and wasn't able to sit down, I did go and see a couple of bands, and I went to one of the local festivals close to where I live. Now, if I'm brutally honest, I don't tend to go to festivals, although this was a hot night a few weeks back, and we just decided to go down there for the evening. The reason I don't go to festivals is very simple: I don't enjoy getting muddy. Okay, I went there when I was younger. I did the Glastonbury thing, and I did several of the other ones. I came back caked in mud and couldn't get warm for 2 days, so I just don't enjoy getting muddy. I know Glastonbury now, you've got the whole glamping thing going on down there, but it sort of rather put me off. Anyway, I digress. So I went to the evening of this particular festival on the Saturday night, and on the Saturday night they had a Santana tribute band, they had a Police tribute band, who were both rather good, but the one I just want to pull out here is the band that actually finished the night off, and they were called Too Rude, and you can find them on Facebook by typing the number 2 and Rude. They are a ska cover band. They play the music of, say, the Specials and Bad Manners and Madness and probably a number of other of those ska related bands that I just can't think of at this point in time. I've got to say, they had the crowd going. The crowd were really bouncing up and down, and they were on stage for a good 2 hours. So my advice is, if you want to go and see, if they pitch up in a theatre near you at some point in the future, well worth a shot. Go and see them. Really was. You'll have a great evening. If you're about my age, you'll know every single song they play, and you'll probably be dancing in the aisles before too long. So very, very good. Well worth a watch. So that's that. The last thing is somebody left on the YouTube channel a comment about a sustain pedal on the DX7. I don't really quite understand what you're asking, so I thought I'd just tag it on the end of here. I use a sustain pedal like everybody else. I mean, but are you talking about something specific related to sustain, or are you just looking at, I've got a pedal on the floor and I press it when I hit the keys? Because obviously the only downside to using a sustain pedal or a hold pedal on the DX7 is the fact that of the number of polyphonic keys you've got before the operators run out. So remember, if you're operating it in a two-operator mode, in a two-voice mode, sorry, should I say, you've only effectively got 8 note polyphonic on the DX7. It's not like the modern keyboards where you've got 256 on this one, for argument's sake. On the older keyboards, it's only 16 note polyphonic. I think this is 16 note polyphonic, isn't it? But if you've got two voices layered on top of each other, you only get effectively 8 notes of each. So with the sustain pedal on there, unless you're playing just heavy sort of drawn out chords, you're going to run out of notes quite quickly before it starts to drop off. Anyway, if you can just let me know exactly what you mean by sustain pedal on the DX7, I'll see what I can do in terms of giving you some feedback. Maybe I'll do a video or something, but I'm probably not going to be doing any sort of instructional type videos for at least the next 10 days until I get some other stuff out of the way. Anyway, it's not a particularly wonderful day where I live at the moment. I mean, I know it's sort of big bright window over here, but it's not particularly wonderful out there. It's rather cool compared with the weather we've had. So today it's going to be a day of tidying up. So anyway, until the next time, catch you later.